Lucas Navarro was staring at a spreadsheet when the door to his office flew open. He looked up, ready to snap at whoever forgot to knock, but the words died in his throat. Standing in the doorway was a little girl, maybe 6 years old, with tangled dark hair and bright eyes that held no fear at all. She wore a pink backpack nearly as big as she was, and her sneakers lit up when she stepped forward. "Excuse me," she said very seriously. "Do you sell dads here?" Lucas blinked. In 15 years of running one of Barcelona's fastest-growing tech companies, no one had ever asked him that. He set down his pen and leaned back in his chair, unsure whether to laugh or call security. "I'm sorry, what?" The girl walked right up to his desk like she owned the place. "Dad, I need to buy one. My mom said everything costs money, so I brought this." She pulled a small plastic purse from her backpack and dumped it on his desk. Coins scattered across the polished wood, a crumpled €5 note, a button, and a piece of candy wrapped in foil. Lucas stared at the pile. That's very sweet, but I don't think. Is it not enough?" Her face fell. "I've been saving for 3 months." Before Lucas could answer, a woman rushed into the office, breathless and pale. She was younger than him, maybe mid-30s, with the same dark hair as a girl and exhaustion written into every line of her face. She wore scrubs under a winter coat, and her hands were shaking. "Emma, oh my God!" She scooped the girl up, holding her tight. "You can't just run off like that. I thought I lost you. I was buying a dad, Mama." The woman closed her eyes, and Lucas saw her throat move as she swallowed hard. When she opened them again, they were wet. "I'm so sorry," she said to Lucas. "We were downstairs in the cafe, and I turned my back for 1 second. She must have slipped into the elevator. I didn't mean to." "It's okay," Lucas said, surprising himself. He stood up, suddenly aware of how cold and impersonal his office must look to them. Glass walls, steel furniture, not a single photo or personal item anywhere. "Really, it's fine." Emma wiggled out of her mother's arms and pointed at Lucas. He didn't say no yet. The woman, Isabel, looked mortified. "Emma, please." But Lucas found himself crouching down to the girl's level, up close. He could see the hope in her eyes, the kind of hope that didn't understand limits yet. "Why do you need a dad?" he asked gently. Emma glanced at her mother, then back at him. "Because Mama works all the time. She's a doctor, and she saves people, but she's always tired. And I thought if I had a dad, he could help. He could make her smile more. And maybe he could read me stories at night when she has to work late." Lucas felt something crack open in his chest. He'd spent the last decade building a company, closing deals, staring at screens until his eyes burned. He couldn't remember the last time someone had needed him for something that wasn't a signature or a decision. He looked up at Isabel, who was trying not to cry, and made a choice he didn't fully understand. "I don't think you can buy a dad," he said to Emma. "But maybe I could help your mom out for a while, if she says it's okay." Isabel opened her mouth to protest, but Emma was already jumping up and down. "Really? Really, really?" "I don't want charity," Isabel said quietly. Lucas stood up. "It's not charity. I don't know what it is, but I'd like to try." That's how it started. Awkward at first, like trying to speak a language he'd never learned. Isabel was skeptical, guarded, and Lucas didn't blame her. He was a stranger who worked 80-hour weeks and didn't know the first thing about kids. But Emma didn't care about any of that. She showed up at his office the next Saturday with a coloring book and announced that they were going to the park. Lucas went. He pushed her on the swings, bought her ice cream, and listened as she chattered about her teacher and her best friend and the stray cat that lived behind their apartment building. Isabel watched from a bench, arms crossed, but by the end of the afternoon, she was smiling. Weeks turned into months. Lucas started leaving work early, something his assistant couldn't believe. He learned to braid hair badly. He sat through animated movies and helped with homework and discovered that he was terrible at hide and seek, because Emma always found him. Isabel began to relax around him, letting him into the small, warm world she'd built for her daughter. They cooked dinner together, the three of them crammed into her tiny kitchen, and Lucas realized he was happier than he'd been in years. He was also falling in love. With both of them, Really, but especially with Isabel. The way she hummed while she cooked, the way she checked on Emma 3 times before leaving for a night shift, the way she looked at him when she thought he wasn't watching. He didn't tell her, not yet, because he didn't want to ruin what they had. Then one night, Emma asked him to stay. "Just until Mama gets home," she said, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "I don't like being alone." Lucas stayed. He read her 3 stories, tucked her in, and sat in the living room with the lights off, waiting. When Isabel came home at midnight, she found him asleep on the couch. She didn't wake him. She just covered him with a blanket and sat down beside him, and when he opened his eyes, she was crying. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what we did to deserve you, but thank you." Lucas reached for her hand. "I'm the one who should be thanking you." They became a family without ever deciding to. It just happened, one dinner and one bedtime story at a time. Lucas moved in. They talked about making it official, about adoption, about the future. Emma thrived. She laughed more, asked for help with her math homework, and started calling Lucas Dad without anyone prompting her. Then Emma's biological father showed up. His name was Marco, and he hadn't been in the picture since Emma was a baby. He'd left when things got hard, when Isabel was exhausted and broke and struggling to finish medical school. Now he was back, older and richer, with a new car and apologies that sounded rehearsed. He wanted to be part of Emma's life, he said. He wanted to help. Emma looked at him like he was a stranger, because he was... "I already have a dad," she said, holding Lucas's hand. Marco tried. He bought her expensive toys, promised trips to Disneyland, talked about the big house he could give her. But Emma didn't want any of it. She wanted a man who knew how she liked her sandwiches cut, who let her win at board games, who showed up. Marco left quietly, and Lucas felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. He looked at Isabel, and she was smiling through tears. "She chose you," Isabel said. "She chose us," Lucas corrected. They got married in the spring, a small ceremony with just Emma and a handful of friends. Emma wore a flower crown and announced to everyone that she bought the best dad in the world for €6.43. A year later, Sophia was born. Emma was over the moon, hovering over her baby sister like a tiny, overprotective guardian. Lucas held Sophia in his arms and thought about how far he'd come from a man who'd lived for spreadsheets and quarterly reports. But then the cracks started to show. His company was struggling. He'd been so focused on his family that he'd missed warning signs, ignored problems that were now spiraling out of control. Investors were pulling out. His CFO quit. Lucas found himself torn between the 2 things he'd built, his business and his family. And for the first time in his life, he didn't know which one to save. Isabel found him at the kitchen table one night, surrounded by papers, his head in his hands. "Talk to me," she said. He told her everything. The failing contracts, the layoffs he'd have to make, the possibility that he might lose the company entirely. He'd worked so hard to build it, and now it was slipping through his fingers. Isabel sat down beside him. "What do you want to do?" Lucas looked at her. "I don't know. I thought I could have both. But maybe I was kidding myself." She took his hand. "You're not the same man you were 2 years ago. You've learned to balance things before. You can do it again." "What if I can't?" "Then we'll figure it out together," Isabel said. That's what families do. Lucas worked harder than he ever had, but this time he worked smarter. He let go of the parts of the business that didn't matter and focused on what did. He hired people he trusted and stopped trying to control everything. It wasn't easy, and there were nights he barely slept, but he never missed Emma's school plays or Sophia's first steps. Slowly, the company stabilized. It wasn't what it used to be, and maybe it never would be, but it was enough. One evening, Emma climbed into his lap while he was reading. "Dad." "Yeah, kiddo? Are you happy?" Lucas looked around the room. Isabel was feeding Sophia, humming softly. Emma's drawings covered the fridge. The apartment smelled like dinner and felt like home. "Yeah," he said, kissing the top of her head. "I really am." Emma smiled. "Good, because you were the best thing I ever bought." Lucas laughed, holding her close, and realized she was right.